and birds are flying by. It's very, very quiet and peaceful, but at the same time, in your head, you're thinking, am I going to hear like the sound of like the chain, the guy in the armor coming by, or what am I going to see something here? Hey, friends and relishes. Welcome to another episode of the Scary Movie Project. I am your host, Matt, on the podcast where we talk about, well, scary movies, but we like to talk about other scary topics, and we are doing that today. Haunted places, right? Everybody watches it. It's on the Travel Channel. It's everywhere. We want to talk haunted places too, right? So I am a big fan of haunted places, and we're going to talk about a haunted place that I have visited and shot footage and made a documentary of. But to help me with that journey today, I have author Denver Michaels on the program, and a shameless plug for Denver right here. He's wrote a great book called "People Are Seeing Something" about sea monsters. You should read it. I have a great copy of it. Denver is a author with a big passion in cryptozoology, paranormal, history, and all things unexplained, really. And Denver, if you recognize him, because you do, he was in my documentary on Chessie, the legend of the Chesapeake Bay monster, which we'll get into that, of course, too. But Denver, thank you for coming on this program. I gave you a quick tease. Tell everybody more about what you do.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's good to talk to you again. Yeah, I'm basically just an author, and I like to write about unexplained things. I'm really passionate about cryptozoology, but I like the paranormal, haunted stuff. Basically just anything weird, unexplained, taboo, whatever. I'm just kind of always really been into that, and probably around 8 years ago, I just decided to start writing. So,
Awesome.
fast forward, here we are.
Well, we love to read it. I know I do. So, quick background: Denver was. Hopefully, everyone out there has watched Something in the Bay, The Tale of Chessie, which is my short documentary on the legend of the Chesapeake Bay monster, Chessie. If you haven't, obviously, shame on you. Go to YouTube, Hilltop Productions YouTube. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Denver is a big part in it, though. I had him sit down for an interview with me, and he talked all about Chessie. And yeah, your great book. Also, he'll plug it again. Something about sea monsters. Any good sea monster info lately for us, real quick, while we're here? Anything new? I haven't heard. I never hear anything anymore about like Champ or Nessie sightings or anything like that lately.
Yeah, I've not really heard anything compelling
Yeah,
lately. I mean, there's always this or that, or
right.
people, share their story or whatever. I did, for folks that don't know, or I don't know why they would know because I haven't told them, but
They
at
will know
any
now.
rate, a couple 4 years ago, my wife and I, we quit our 9 to 5s and decided to just start traveling the country in our
Good.
RV. And so, I actually do think I had a sighting of the Flathead Lake monster out
Oh,
in
in
Montana,
Montana,
but
yeah.
it's kind of one of those deals, is like, I'm pretty sure I saw it, but I don't have a video, don't have a picture. It's one of those deals. We were driving around the lake. We went around the south end, and we were over on the see the over on, I think it's over on the western side. It's like a 4-lane highway, but then once you go around the south and then come back up the other side, it's just a I don't know if it's a state road or a county road, but anyway, it's real narrow, just a 2-lane road. But you're right along the lake the whole way, but it's real residential through there. And me and my wife, we both just like saw something, like
Yeah.
some humps just like raising up out of the water. And then I looked at her and she looked at me and she's like, "Did you see that?" I'm
Right.
like, "Yeah." And then, but it was like there was no place to, it's, real narrow road, no place to pull over, real steep driveways. And, you know, uh, I told her to get her phone out, but it's really too far to like zoom in on it or anything,
Yeah.
and we saw it for, I don't know, a few seconds or however long, and it just like went right back down into the water, and it was gone, so it's like one of those things, you take it for what it is. I mean, it's I'm pretty sure what I saw, but it's
Yeah.
Is that proof? Is it anything convincing? No, and really it's your stereotypical sighting, right?
Right, right, right.
You know, just take it for what it
You know
is.
what
But I
though?
thought it was cool though.
Look how many people do stuff like this and they spend their whole lives chasing and they never see anything, right? They never
Yeah,
see it. They never see the ghost they're chasing. They never see the
yeah,
monster they're chasing. That's pretty cool. You got to see something, whether, like you said, you don't know. It could have been nothing. It could have been everything. Who knows?
yeah.
But you got to see it. And that's, I mean, validation enough for yourself, right? Kind of thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, and when you combined all of those, just like how big the lake is, and the history of
Yeah.
sightings. I mean, there's like over 100, I think,
Yeah.
documented. I mean, like that's not including all the people driving down the road, just like I did, that
Right.
never tell anybody about it or really say anything about it. So it does make you wonder. It really
Yeah,
does.
that's awesome. I mean, I want to go back to Lake Champlain. I was there when I was a kid. I'd like to go back at some point and see what's living in there. But as far as sea monsters go, again, if you want to read his book, please read it. But also, we have an episode on sea monsters that we did years ago. Please feel free to listen to that, and we rant about sea monsters for about an hour. So anyway, but today is haunted places. We take a trip to West Virginia, Virginia, and Georgia. So the one I'm most interested in, sadly, I haven't been to many of these places, but that's okay. We're going to talk about them with you because you have. The first one I want to think about is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia. So this is a big old Kirkbride built, mental institution that was built during the Civil War, I think, wasn't it during
Yeah,
that?
I think they started.
Yeah,
Their first patients, I think, came in around 1864. So
there we
during the
go.
Civil War,
Yep,
it took them
yep,
a long time to build it, but yeah, I
yep.
think the first patients were 1864.
And just like all these places, overcrowding, they find out the conditions are terrible. It's the same story with all these places, obviously.
Yeah.
And they finally closed it in what was the late 80s, early 90s. All
94, it
right.
closed its doors.
So that's more than 100 years. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
And it's a beautiful, like, what's they call it the Kirkbride style, but it's like the Gothic architecture, or whatever. It's like a castle, right? And it is now open. Some guy bought it, I guess, right? And now it tours. Like it's been
yeah.
on you name the ghost show, ghost hunters, ghost. It's been on there. People have investigated this place to death. No, no pun intended. And you can go on tours now, like whenever you want. It's a little bit of a hike for me. It's a good 5 or 6 hours from where I live. I would like to do it at some point, but you have been there. You have had some stuff happen. So tell us about this place.
Well, like you said, this is it's just this huge gothic, just a sprawling complex.
Yeah.
And I mean, like when you get into town, I mean, like you can just see it. I mean, it's just the best way I can describe it is it's just looming in the background. I mean,
Yeah.
it just looks like a scary movie.
It's awesome.
It
Yeah.
just does. I mean, and then as you drive up to it, it's just you really just feel how enormous this place was. And kind of a fun fact about it as at its peak, because they over the years they kept building on and this and that. It was self-sustaining. They grew, or at least at one time it was self-sustaining. They had their own, they grew their own food and
Yeah.
their own
Right.
cemetery out there. Just,
Yeah.
it's just like its own thing. But it was at its peak. They say it was sat on 666 acres, which I thought that was kind of cool. It's something
Yeah.
you can't really, it's
I
something you
like that.
can't really make up. But yeah, it was like you were talking about. It was the conditions got really bad. It was designed to house 250 people, but at its peak they had over 2,500 or around
How does that
2,500
happen?
people. And as big as it is, when you go in there, you really get a sense of like what conditions would have been like,
Right.
with just that kind of overcrowding. And one of the things that stands out too, like when you're touring the place, it's the housing for the workers, administrators. There's just such a stark contrast. I mean,
Yeah.
they have like these ornate staircases, and just really beautiful workmanship and everything. Then you go to these little tiny rooms, where the people were. It's kind of
How much of the place? So I mean, it still pretty much looks the same. I mean, they didn't clean this place up to make it look fancy. They want it to look kind of dingy and dirty still, right? Everything, right?
oh yeah. So like if
Yeah.
you're touring it, the only place that's really cleaned up is like I would say where the staff and everything, because
Yeah.
they kind of highlight how pretty and nice that was. But the rest of it, yeah, man, you're walking through there and it's dingy and it's kind of cool. And I don't mean cool to I, interesting, I guess is a better word. I don't mean to make light of the conditions there, but it's kind of neat. They have the old children's wing there, and there's
Mm.
drawings on the walls
That's
that
spooky.
the
Yeah.
kids did, and it kind of tugs at your
Well,
heartstrings.
it's a little bit sad. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
sure. I bet.
and then they have there's a room in there. They call it the lobotomy room, where they would just
Hmm.
like I think I don't really remember when, but there was I don't remember his name, but they had a doctor in there, and that was just like kind of his thing. He was like the lobotomy guy. He just, I guess,
Yeah.
like when was that, like back in the 50s or sometime around in
As
there,
a thing.
when that really was kind of a thing, because you do that and then the patients basically just kind of, they don't cause any trouble or
Yeah,
really ask for much if once you do that.
pretty
And
much.
they had, I guess they just call it like the lobotomy recovery room. They just kind of like run them in and take a little ice pick and dink, and
That's
then
it. Next.
roll, yeah, and then they just roll them out in the hall, and it's just like really, I mean, you can just like, I don't claim to be an empath or anything like that, but you can just feel
Yeah.
the vibes from that
Wow.
place, and another place in there that's like they had like a criminally insane
Hmm. Hmm.
portion of it, and supposedly some really bad there's some really bad stuff that's going on there, obviously, and a lot of weird activity from what people say.
Oh yeah. So, did you do a tour? What did you? What's your experience with being in?
Yeah,
How did
so
that go? So,
I
oh, real
just
quick. Also, I think the building is on the National Historic Registry now, right? Also, isn't
it
it?
is,
Yeah.
yes,
Yep. Yep.
that is true.
Yep.
It is. Yeah, I did a self-guided tour some years ago. I mean,
Okay.
it's been a while, but I can't really speak to anything in particular really happening, but other than like I say, you can just feel it, man. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah,
I've
yeah, I
I've
got you.
known people that have talked about like you know feeling something like push them, like to the point where they've fallen down. Heard people that felt something scratch them, and when they get home and check, they got
Oh
these
yeah, the
like
claw marks and everything.
red
Yes.
marks
Yes.
down their back, which is actually kind of a
Crazy.
common thing in within the phenomenon,
Yeah, that's wild.
uh, um so I'd heard of all of that kind of stuff, as we're going through, and this is kind of typical of these places, like my wife's phone just goes dead, which,
Batteries dying. Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Yes,
it's
that's real.
it's almost cliche to talk about it because
Yeah.
it just happens in so many of these places. But her phone, it starts acting wonky and just dies, and like no kidding, as soon as we get back out to the car, power's back up, and it's at 67%
Oh, it's
or whatever it
crazy.
was. But I think the most interesting thing about our tour of that was, as we were we always just take tons of pictures.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to take videos, so I didn't
Right.
take any
Right.
videos or anything, but we took just tons of pictures. And as we're going through our pictures when we were at home, and I can't remember, I'd have to go back in my old notes or whatever, so I can't really remember what went on around this area. But at any rate, it's like it was at an area near like where a freight elevator would bring stuff up to this level. And she was basically just taking pictures of, the gated off area for, the elevator and what have you. And we're going through our pictures, and there's just this figure in one of the pictures, like over in the corner of the picture, and it's got like a wow kind of look
Wow.
on its face. And I
Crazy.
mean,
Yeah.
like as we're looking at, I mean, it just scared the, out of us.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
like, what in the world? And it's like I can't really, to a skeptic, it's, oh yeah, whatever, dude.
Right.
That's just some artifact. But I mean, it's just like it's almost looks three-dimensional.
It's
Like
crazy.
just this weird, like brownish black figure, and with just like kind of like this. You can't really
And
see the eyes, but you can kind of like see the mouth, and
and you
it's
saw this came up only when you saw photos,
oh
right? You didn't
yeah,
see
only
this.
it only showed up in
Yeah.
the pictures, not something that we
Saw at the
saw
time.
with our eyes or
Mm.
or anything like that. And it just really
Mm.
just really creeped us out, man.
Now, did you tour this place during the daytime or at nighttime?
This was during the day. Yeah.
Okay.
It
How
was
many hours did it take you to get through there? 2 or 3, 4 hours, probably.
I think we were probably there. I'm going to say 2.5 to 3 hours. I mean,
Okay. Yeah. It
and
takes a while.
this was a while back. I don't know what they let, or what kind of tours they have now or this or
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was I what they let us do. We got to see a whole lot of the place,
That's
a
very
whole
cool.
lot of the place. And yeah, it took a while to go through. I mean, it was definitely worth the, you're talking about as a long drive for you. I mean, even when I lived over in the Shenandoah Valley there, it was
Mm.
still probably about a 3.5
Yeah.
hour ride for
It's way
me.
out. It's near Ohio, isn't it? Essentially.
It's closer to Ohio than
Yeah.
Virginia, I'll say
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
it's I think it's kind of like in the middle of the state almost, but
I
yeah,
think
you
so.
could you could definitely drive to Ohio quicker than
Probably.
Virginia.
Do you have this photo posted anywhere? I don't know that I've ever seen it.
I do. I actually wrote a book about some weird
Okay.
stuff in West Virginia, and I put it in the book.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I've got the picture. I'll have to, I could send it to you. Just
No, I just want everyone to listen. I want to be able to see it too. That's something very
yeah, I
cool. So
don't
I
really
don't.
have it. I
Oh, it's
don't.
posted
I
anywhere.
got
No.
rid of all my social media and
Okay.
all that stuff a while back. I just got to be such an enormous time suck.
It
It's like
can
I gotta
do
I
that.
gotta get off Twitter and Facebook. So I don't,
Yeah.
at one point, like I think I did post it on Twitter or Facebook, but yeah, I don't really have it up anywhere now.
Social media can be a great thing and a terrible thing.
Well, and especially for stuff like that,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
You get the keyboard tough guys telling you what an idiot you are, and it's like,
Goes
look,
on and on and
I'm not
on.
saying nothing. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't really care what it is or what it's not.
Right.
I just think it's
Here it
interesting.
is.
Thought I would share it with you. That's the extent of it.
I know. So you'd recommend checking this place out, probably though, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. You're not gonna,
Okay.
like I said, I don't know what these days what they let you do. So that's all. I can't speak to any of that, but the place itself, yeah, you're really you'll really enjoy it. And heck, if
Cool.
you're making that drive over there, man, you might want to just like make a weekend out of it and go up to Moundsville in West Virginia to the
The Moundsville
West Virginia
Penitentiary,
State
right?
Penitentiary, because dude,
Yes.
that is a cool place too.
Yes. I've heard
That
of
is,
this one too.
yeah,
Well, shoot, do that. Might as well make it even longer and then go to Point Pleasant and go see Mothman and just take a whole
I
West Virginia trip out of that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, just do like a 3-day weekend
Yeah.
or something. But yeah,
That's a
the
good idea. That's a good
Moundsville's
idea.
not that far from, I mean, I say not that far. It's probably a couple hours, I
Yeah.
guess. But it's that's a cool place too.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that one
I've
too.
heard of it. Yeah. Okay. Good. So good to know there's someone that's been to these. All right. So let's leave West Virginia and let's go visit Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So Savannah, Georgia, everyone that's been there knows it's one of the most haunted cities in the country, they say. Lots of spooky stuff going on there. but specifically you wanted to mention so Bonaventure Cemetery, right?
Yeah.
Opened in the 1850s, I think. They talk about it in the book, The Midnight of Garden. Sorry, the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, I should say. And I think there's a couple, two little. I mean, cemeteries are always spooky with the Spanish moss and all the whatever. But two stories I think I've read about. People like bring their own martinis to somebody's grave, and then there's a story of a little Gracie, some girl that died at a young age or something. So I've never been to this place, but yeah, what's up with Bonaventure Cemetery in Savannah?
Yeah, this is one that this is one, I visited during the daytime. And actually when I visited Savannah, I didn't it was like right after we started out on the road in 2020.
Okay.
And it was kind of like during the height of COVID, so
Mm,
pretty much everything was pretty much shut down
yeah.
for the
Yeah.
most part. You know what I mean? You could still go do some stuff, but I didn't really get.
It was a great time for road trips. I took my first trip down to Old House Woods that same this
Oh
summer.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the best time to go. If you were going to outside places, that was the best time to do that. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but as far as like you know visiting some of like the old homes or things like
Hmm.
anything you wanted to do inside, it
No,
was
I couldn't
just
do that.
terrible, but so we went then and we just kind of went down to Savannah just for the day, and that was the main thing I wanted to do was go to that cemetery because I'd seen it in the Midnight of Garden of Good and Evil,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
movie. I hadn't read the book, but I saw the movie, and it's just like one of those. It's kind of like the asylum, right? You pull in there and I don't know, it just looks scary. And I think it's really just I think it's really just the trees that make it look scary,
Spooky, right?
but the only thing you can think is, when you get there, it's like, man, I bet this place is really creepy at night.
Oh God, yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Of
can't
course.
even I can't even imagine walking through there with no flashlight or something
Oh,
in the middle of the night. But
nah.
yeah, I mean the cemetery, it's huge, and
Okay.
they'll let you drive around and look at everything. You don't have to pay, or at least back then you didn't have to pay to get in, nothing like that. They do. I mean, I think they do offer some tours and like some. I think they might even have like a haunted tour or
Mm,
something.
I would think
But
so. Yeah.
I think that they do. I mean, I don't know if it's like a local group that does it or if they're affiliated with the cemetery or not. But I do think I read something about that. But anyway, I mean, it's huge, and the one grave you're talking about, Conrad
Is
Aiken.
that Comrade
He
Aiken?
was
Okay.
uh he was a writer that Pulitzer Prize winning writer, and I don't really know the story behind it, but people, yeah, they say that people just go and like have martinis at his grave. I didn't see anybody doing that when I was there,
Right.
but yeah, he's got like I actually took a picture of his grave. I've got some of those pictures. The other one that was the real popular one's the one that you were talking about,
Little
the
Gracie.
little Gracie Watson grave, and at her grave, and I think so I think she was the daughter of some. I don't remember what her parents owned or what, but anyway, they were like,
Hotels. Hotels,
okay, is
right?
that what it
Yeah.
was? Yeah, I couldn't remember, but yeah, they were real well off. So she's got this huge, it's almost like a little fenced in yard type grave, and there's like a statue of a little girl. I don't remember how old she was. Looked like, maybe 5 6
Right.
age range, something like that. But according to the stories, people spot her, crying like tears of blood.
Wow.
That's kind of I didn't didn't see anything like that, but
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like some of the some of those Virgin Mary
Oh,
statues.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
People,
yeah.
it sounds kind of like the
Right.
same thing almost,
Stigmata or
but
something.
yeah, around her grave, I mean, people leave like little trinkets and little toys and all kinds of all kinds of. I mean, it's just covered with little things that people leave.
Mm.
So I mean, I really enjoyed my visit. I kind of like those old historic cemeteries like
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
really probably one of my favorite ones I've been to. I went to
Okay.
one in New Orleans,
Oh, did
the
you go to the what's the name?
Mater Mater Cemetery, or I don't know how you say it, Metairie. I don't know
Oh,
how they pronounce it down there, but
did you go to this also the what is it, the St. Louis number one and two, the ones that are the above ground that Marie Laveau is buried or whatever it is?
yeah, they got like all the
Ah,
graves are they're all
yeah.
above ground, just
Yep.
all these huge mausoleums. So that
Yes.
was probably my favorite, I guess.
Okay.
But the one in Savannah, I think's right up there with it, just because it's just so I don't know, man, it's just so cool. And
Yeah.
you go and there's at a certain point in the cemetery, you can see the river down there. So it's just
That's
a
right. That's
really
right.
nice
Yeah.
setting. I definitely
So
recommend, visiting if you're ever down that way.
now, did you have anything unusual happen to you while you were there, or no? Just
No, I can't say we did, man. We were just kind of, doing our thing, and
right.
we
Right.
didn't, middle of the day, just kind
Yeah.
of checking the place out. And I can't really say
It
that
sounds
anything
really, yeah,
strange
no, it's
happened.
definitely a place that sounds like a nice place to visit, and maybe something cool will happen to you. Who knows? Maybe not, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
worth
the thing
looking
about
at.
this stuff. You never really know.
No,
It's
no.
you just and then if you know a lot about it going in, you don't know like if it's the power of suggestion, you know what
Of
I'm
course,
saying?
of
So
course.
so a
That's a
lot of
big,
times I
that's a
like
big part
going
of it.
into these places blind and then kind of reading about them later on, too.
It's one of those things where it's like these places, some of these places are so haunted, and people talk about them all the time, and you wonder if I hadn't been told ahead of time and I went in here, would my mind be any different the way, you know what I'm saying, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
So
you just don't know. It's all so
I don't know.
subjective, and so it's like, how do you prove any of this stuff anyway? Like,
Yeah,
a lot
right.
of your stuff that these ghost hunters and what have you, the
Yeah.
evidence that they get, I mean, it's still,
I,
okay, like,
I
what is it exactly,
I will say though, in all these shows I watch, I don't remember any that really talk about like a cemetery necessarily, right? They're always like buildings or something. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Never
usually,
really seen that. That's
yeah, usually it is, and I've always wondered about the haunted cemetery stuff, because the thing in my mind is like, why would a ghost be haunting a cemetery, right? Why wouldn't it be like haunting the place that the person
where
died,
it died. Yeah. Huh.
instead of so I don't know, but you do hear a lot
Yes.
of weird stuff
Oh
from
yeah. No,
cemeteries for
for sure.
sure.
So that's awesome. Cemeteries are great, right? So Savannah, okay, so we touched on those two. So let's go back to Virginia and let's talk about two places. First one. So Braley Pond, right? Did I get that name right? I believe it's, yeah, Braley
Yeah,
Pond. All right. So this is in George Washington and Jefferson National Forest area, right? It's essentially just like a campground near Stanton, I think it is, right?
yeah,
Uh, they say it's an insanely haunted place in the state, right? Now that's all fine and great. Haunted stories or urban legends are great and everything, but wasn't somebody actually murdered here?
yeah.
Right. So I've never, so Stanton's not that far, not that far from me, but I've never been, and honestly, I've never even heard much about this until recently. But yeah, and you had something interesting. So talk about Braley Pond.
Yeah, so Braley Pond is in western Augusta County. I'd say it's probably 20 minutes outside of Stanton, maybe due west of Stanton,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more, but I mean it's pretty much out in the middle of nowhere out
Yeah.
there. And it's just real picturesque and pretty. There's a kind of a small lake or pond, whatever you want to call it. And I had actually, back in the mid to late 90s. Oh, I'm sorry. I think my phone just went off
Hey,
or something.
li
My bad.
live production.
My bad. I thought I silenced it. At any rate, what was I saying? Yeah, I'd actually been fishing there. They stock it with trout, and
Yeah, yeah.
I'd actually been fishing there back in the mid to late 90s. And, I never really, had anything happen or didn't never really heard about anything. But as years went by, I kind of started like reading stuff about it being haunted and this and that. And in 2003, there was actually a gang related murder there.
Yeah. Yeah.
A young man, I think he was about 19. His name was Christopher Kennedy, and
Yeah.
a couple. He was involved in the Crip Street Gang, and if I'm remembering right, I think he was leaving the gang,
Okay.
and three of the gang members were afraid that he was going to, kind of spill to the police, some of the things that had been going on. So as it happened, they lured him out to Brayley Pond one night, and they killed him. I think they stabbed him like
50,
13
60, yeah.
times or something like
Yeah, it's
that.
pretty bad.
And yeah, and dumped him, and just dumped him in the pond there. And so, I mean, that's pretty shocking, for a number of reasons. I mean, number one, it's a heinous crime,
Yep.
and certainly not something you would expect out there. And I think it kind of shocked people, about gang related activity, touching all the way out in Western Virginia like that.
Right.
It's just not,
Place where those things don't happen, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's a really shocking thing. But that's kind of the backstory on what happened there. But I've been reading about all these hauntings and this and that there, and I mean there's any number of things. I wrote some notes down of people supposedly see spirits levitating above the pond
Mhm.
and underneath the water.
Wow.
There's like a creek that runs, through the woods to the pond, and people have spotted like an apparition levitating above it. They hear muffled voices, the clip clop of hooves, greenish orbs, and there have been reports of nausea, disorientation,
Sure. People say, yeah.
paranoia, that sort of thing. Which
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to my head when I hear that is infrasound. That's one of those things that supposedly can cause that. But anyway, getting on with the story, there's a camping magazine and website, The Dirt, and they ran an article about a couple of investigators that went out there investigating.
Yes. This is a good story. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of a Cliff Notes version of it. They were out there one night, and there's this little bridge that you go to. You kind of go up a hill, and there's like this little bridge that you go to, and it's like a little creek going
Mhm.
underneath it. And once you get across the bridge, you go up steps, and then you're on like on the bank of the pond. And so as they were crossing this bridge, they just got this like major rush of like dread and fear, just like came over them. And they like heard splashing sounds in the water, and saw like a green orb. I don't remember if it was off in the woods or over the pond or whatever. And so I think they just kind of decided, screw this. let's get out of here. So they
I'm
start
out.
running. Yeah, start running back toward their car. And they said they felt like something was chasing them. And the guy said he felt like something pushed him on his back, and like he fell off the bridge like down into the little creek or whatever.
Mhm.
And the lady, Shay Willis, um, I think the term she used was psychic jelly. Like she said, she
Psychic
felt
jelly.
like
All right.
something with like tentacles just like
Oh,
latched
wow.
on to her back.
Jeez.
And well, months went by, and she just wasn't herself. And she said that him and her went back to the pond to investigate a couple of times, and that she would go like into these trance like states when she was there, right? And like when she's home, she's having nightmares. Like at work, she's like doodling, just like kind of unconsciously, kind of like doodling like these drawings that have like tentacles on, just like
Yeah,
real
yeah,
weird stuff.
yeah.
And so like one night, her and her husband are watching TV in their bedroom, and I think they had like an 8-year-old son, and he's like screaming, and they went in the bedroom, and he's like seeing like a guy that's soaking wet and like covered in blood,
Mhm.
and as the story goes, eventually she starts feeling better, and kind of got to normal. And I don't really know if anything else came of it. And
Mhm.
that's kind of
That's
the
frightening.
big story that you'll read, like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
go on the magazine or the website The Dirt, you can.
So that's a great plug because that actually, what you're talking about, someone did a podcast on this, and it's like a 4 episode
Hmm,
thing. So yeah, yeah, go check
okay.
that out. Check that website out, everybody, and look at that. And that's
Yeah.
where you'll find that, and you can listen. I have not listened to this yet, but it's all about this case, and I think what exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably butchered it, but that's
No, no,
that's
I think
kind of
that's
like
yeah.
the Cliff Notes version of,
Right. Right.
so as for me, like
Yeah. What happened to you there?
in 2020, winter 2020, it's in December, I went there because I ended up writing a book called Haunted Shenandoah Valley, which was released in 2021, and I included Brayley Pond in the book, because of all the things I'd read about her, but when I came back home in 2020, I'm like, I'm gonna go. I'd been there before, but like I said, this was years before
You
the.
weren't thinking about before the murder, and you weren't thinking
Yeah,
about that. Right. Right.
exactly. And
Right.
so
Right.
I'm like, let me just go out there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Check it
I
out.
don't, I don't really consider myself an investigator, but I do investigate things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really, I'm not out there trying to solve any mysteries or anything like that. But, just for my own personal, my writing and all that, I do like to get my boots on the ground in
Yep.
as many places as
Yeah.
I can.
It's fun.
So I started out, and I man, it was cold that day. There's like 8 inches of snow, and it was
Wow.
just cold. It was just a raw, freezing cold day. And I just started out this there's some trails that goes all the way around the pond. So, I do that. And there was only like one person there fishing when I got there. And then after I went around the lake, there was nobody there. I was all alone, the rest of the day. And so, I was just kind of taking some pictures, because, maybe I'll use them in the book or whatever. And so then I, made my way over into the campground, checked that out. And I'm not sure exactly where the murder took place. I want to say it was in the campground, and like they, took him up to the pond and
Right.
dumped him, but I don't know exactly where it took place, whatever. But, at any rate, I'm just kind of, doing my thing, taking some pictures. I was actually uh doing some taking some videos, and I'm walking along like a logging trail, like forest road, like right outside the campground. There's this large clearing. I got my phone just kind of like that, and my phone goes dead.
Mhm. Battery stuff. Yep.
Okay. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's like, dude, I know this thing had at least,
Yep.
85% when I got here.
Yep.
And whatever. But then, man, it's hard to explain, but all of a sudden, man, I just felt just something just like came over me, man.
Felt bad.
I was just like, almost having like a panic attack.
Mm.
I'm not one of these, ooh,
Just
I
can't.
got anxiety, I'm having a panic. I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
I don't, it's just out of nowhere. And I'm just like,
yeah.
yeah, and it's like, all right, come on now, you get it together. You're fine, dude. So I just got real scared. So I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. So I walked to my car as quick as I could. Get to the car and I pull my phone out of my pocket as I'm opening the door, and it powers back up, just by itself, powered back up. So I get in the car and I'm like, all right, let me it's a long drive out here. Don't want to leave just yet. So I sit in there and warm up, and I'm like, for whatever reason, I'm like, all right, well, something made my phone go dead. So I grabbed my EMF meter, drove my car around to the front of the road where there was a gate, just so it'd be a little closer, and I actually backed in just in case
Hmm.
I needed to make a run for it.
Yep.
Anyway, so I got up to the clearing, and I set my phone and my key like 20 yards away, just so that they wouldn't cause a false reading. And
Right.
and sure enough, right about where my phone went dead, the EMF meter just lighting up
Wow.
like crazy.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, but like I say, so what does that,
Mhm.
it's just for my own curiosity, right? I just was like, oh well, that is interesting. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go back, get my phone, all that. And then I just keep walking down the road a ways. I'm feeling better now. And, the trail split off kind of up the side of the mountain. I went up there a little bit. And as I'm coming back, it's like something caught my eye on the other side of that field. I'm like, what is that over there? And, so I went across the field and I got over there, and it was like, I just noticed like a lean to. So it's kind of like what you see, what people, portray as Bigfoot evidence.
Mhm.
But I get over there and I'm like, okay, yeah, that is like one of those lean-to things, but there's like a fire pit around it. I'm like, yeah, it ain't Bigfoot. This is Boy Scouts or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
So okay, cool, fine. So I go back out, and I'm on the road, and as I'm at that get back to that that little spot on the road, my phone went dead again. you know and I just heard like this rust, this like real sounded like some deer, or like a couple deer running like toward me, but it just like stopped, and I couldn't see anything. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty crazy. And then, I mean, everybody's probably gonna laugh, but then I heard, you ever hear the like on the Bigfoot shows, the Bigfoot howls, where they're like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
like that's the closest sound I could describe, and it was like up on
Wow.
the hill, like kind of above where I had went over and looked at that lean-to. And I'm like, oh man. Then I heard it again. And then I heard it again. And, I got my phone out, and I'm like, all right, I need to get my phone on, and I need to record these noises. So I get the phone, get my phone on, flip it on video, and I'm, waiting for if that sound is going to happen again. And then it goes dead again. And then I hear that rustling again, but it's like, you know, just like something crashing through the woods.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think is like it's a black bear, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Something big.
like, and I'm just thinking a black bear's charging me. But dude, I mean, like, I can't see anything. And I mean,
Staring at it.
it like felt like it was like probably 5 feet away from me, and then the noise just
Man,
stopped. And so I'm like,
you can't see it.
that's it. I'm gone. And
Yeah.
I
It's
just
time to go.
hightailed it to my car,
It's time to go.
jumped in, and I just got out on the road, and a little bit before I just put my phone like down in the cup holder, and I was sitting at a red light just outside of Stanton, and my phone just turned itself back on, and I don't know, I had,
Oh
like
man.
52% or just, something stupid like that. So whatever, take that for what
Wow.
it's worth, but
No,
that's just kind of like what my experience was. So
that's a legit something happened to you there, and that's something you can't explain,
yeah,
right?
I mean, I really can. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, I had never really been that unnerved before.
Yeah, no, that's
Whatever
man.
was like sounded like it. I thought that I was like seriously like a black bear charge or something because it was
No,
that
I mean, you're in
loud,
the woods. That's you don't know. That's yeah.
But
That could
it's like
happen.
I couldn't. There was nothing there though. I'm
And
like,
you have no real like recordings of anything though. Nothing from
no. I'm
yeah.
every time I got my phone out,
It would just die.
it just kept dying
Well,
because
and that tells you something right there. I mean, that's the whole, one of the, things everyone knows about these investigations is like you said, spirits energy they drain power from wherever there's
yeah.
around. So they drain your phone batteries, they drain your camera batteries. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean
Oh man.
it's just really
And you haven't
just
been back you haven't been back there since, right?
no, I've been within the area again, but
Maybe
it's like I'm good.
leave that place alone, maybe.
But
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's just my deal. There were some dudes
Yeah.
out there trout fishing that
Oh
day,
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
they were, whatever. I don't know if it's because
Looking for
I
it.
was out there poking around,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
whatever it
It's
was
very
started
possible.
poking around at me. I guess.
Uh-huh. That's
I don't know,
exactly
but
right.
it's
You
just
mess around with stuff, you're gonna get it
well,
sometimes.
and what kept coming to my mind is like the whole infrasound or whatever you call that yeah, infrasound.
Hmm.
How that because like back in my 9 to 5 days, I mean, I used to work for one of the major defense contractors, and they were actually working on like infrasound like weapons,
It's crazy.
because it's non-lethal, but
Yeah.
it'll make people disperse because it makes them like panic and nauseous
Oh
and
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just now what would cause that? I mean, some people have speculated that ghosts or spirits. Some people
Sure.
think that Bigfoot,
Sure.
if Bigfoot exists, has that sort of capability.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just know that I'm good on Braley Pond.
Yeah. You had your time there. Yeah. That makes me think about whether I'll be visiting or not. So here's the last one. This one I'm going to kind of take the wheel on this a little bit. Is all right. The Old House Woods
Yeah.
in sitting on the Chesapeake Bay in the Middle Peninsula of Virginia. I've heard about this place for a long time. They say it's crazy haunted place, right? It's a 50-acre patch of woodlands, and it's like I said, it's right on the Chesapeake Bay, older than time itself. I mean, it goes back to Revolutionary War days, and the stories are just they're crazy. Some of the stories are Revolutionary War soldiers who had to come and they had to hide their treasure up in White's Cove, I guess it was, and they buried their treasure on the shores there. And they come back at night and they dig, and the sounds of digging, you can hear it. Ships flying by in the moonlight at nighttime. People I've interviewed for my piece saw these ships, right? I've talked to people that have actually seen these ships. They say they've seen these ships. One of the craziest stories is the story of the Revolutionary War soldiers who are wandering the road and they are in their armor and they're asking questions and they're skeletal and they are dressed in steel armor and people have seen them and they run in fear, obviously. That would be terrifying. Headless dogs, cows, the storm woman. There's a story of a woman who is long since passed away. Her husband died in a storm, and she comes to warn with a scream and a yell of oncoming terrible storms to warn soldiers and warn sailors. This goes back to the Revolutionary War, where high-ranking officials from British armies would come and they would leave things behind and go back, and they'd land there, and yeah, buried treasure and just all kinds of just the wildest stuff you can imagine in this place. And I said, I've got to get down there. So years ago in 2020, we're talking about that. I went down there just for a day in the middle of summer and kind of freaked myself out. It was the middle of the day. It was hot, bugs and everything. it's like ancient, like tidewater, stuff here. And these are swamps. These are old trees. And I just wanted to kind of investigate. But there's a beach. There's Haven Beach, and there's a nice beach to go on right on the bay. It's waves and everything, and that's where the ships land, and that's where the treasure's buried, and it's really cool. So I did some work for years on finding people that knew the area, and I found some great people, some really great people, and folks who hopefully are listening. They know who you are. You guys are amazing. That helped me with this documentary that I shot, and I had a great guy to tell me all about all these old stories of the old house woods, and like I said, folks that said they saw the ships themselves, and it was just great. And I went down there about a year and a half ago, and I spent a Saturday on a rainy kind of Saturday driving through the area. Now, one thing I'll mention, if you guys want to visit this place, there's not a lot really to visit. I think we talked about that earlier. It's really just roads and it's dense woods. And you can pull off on some spots, but there really aren't a lot of places to stop and kind of look around. And I please above all, please be respectful. This is private property. People do live around here. I was parked on public roads. I did not trespass on anyone's property. So please abide by that. I went to the beach, obviously, to get shots of the woods. The woods are spooky, they're creepy. And the next day, was a rainy day on a Saturday. So Sunday I shot the majority of my footage, and it was a windy kind of clear day. But anytime I was in, and it's very remote there. There's not a lot of folks that live there. So when I'm walking down the street with a camera, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, and I'm looking over this shoulder, and it's quiet, and there's not all you really hear. There's a lot of wildlife. There are frogs and beavers and stuff on the side of the road and these little channels, and birds are flying by. It's very, very quiet and peaceful, but at the same time, in your head, you're thinking, am I going to hear like the sound of like the guy in the armor coming by, or what am I going to see something here? I saw nothing, and nothing turned up on my video, at least nothing I ever noticed when I edited it. But I had a blast putting this together, and it was so much fun to shoot this. Little town of Matthews. It's a spooky, you wouldn't catch me there at nighttime. I was there just when sunset was hitting, and I got the heck up on out of there that night, and I came back in the morning. But really cool place. I'd love to go see it again. Yeah, the old house woods. Spooky stuff. I think people, not a lot of folks want to talk about it. It's one of those places where some people, they live there, they please leave us alone. We don't want to talk about this nonsense. Get the heck up on out of here. But you got some folks that are cool, and they want to tell a story of it too. So I think you've been down there once or twice, right? I think you've kind of driven around it.
Yeah, I've been down there a couple times, and yeah, it's one of those places. It's just one of those places when you're driving around down there. It's like you just feel like you're
Yeah,
watched. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I don't know what it is, but it just feels like there's some eyes right on the back of your
yeah.
neck, and
You
it's
know, you know you're alone out there, right? You know
yeah.
you're alone, and but maybe there's something else here.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
and like you said, it's really it's really kind of secluded out
Oh
there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about 20 minutes or more from the town of Matthews,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Matthews is a pretty little town.
Matthews, it has a main street and literally one traffic light.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
that. So there's just
I had to drive into Gloucester. It was half an hour away, the hotel.
yeah.
It's not, there's nothing is nearby. There's nothing there.
Yeah,
There's nothing
yeah.
there.
There's really very rural down there.
Yep.
All those little counties and towns, and right there where you're talking about, it is very
Yeah.
just secluded, and it probably looks almost like it did
I
in
was just gonna
Revolutionary
say
War
that. So
times.
this place again, yeah, it hasn't aged. I mean, there are roads obviously now, and there are
Yeah,
some houses, and I flew my drone up high, and you can see around. But it is very much, I'm sure, what it was in 17 whatever when
yeah.
these ships were there. Yes.
Yeah. Besides
Yes.
the pavement and the
Yep.
power
It's the
lines, I
same.
mean, it's pretty much just like it would have been back then. It
Those
just hadn't really
scraggly
been
trees
touched.
that grow out of the sand, out of the
Yeah.
sandy soil.
Yep.
Oh yeah. And the wildlife and you're standing on the road and you're looking into the woods and you're like, you want to go in there, but again, please, it's private
Yeah.
property. Please respect that. And you're just wondering what's in there. Like, is
Yeah.
there really like
Oh
was there a
man.
treasure? What is in there?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to just,
Oh,
like be able to park somewhere and just take a walk through,
yeah.
through the woods there. Just kind of take
Your
my time,
your
take a
your
walk
best
through the
your
woods. But
your best bet is there's a turn off further down. There's some power lines where you can go, or you could park at the parking at the beach. There's
yeah,
about 10 parking spots for Haven Beach.
Yeah.
And if it's a nice day, you can walk down. That's your best bet.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah, you just
stay on
can't
the
really.
road. Stay on
Yeah,
the road.
all the land except for Haven Beach right there, it's just all private. But from Haven Beach, if anybody's interested in going down there, Haven Beach is
Nice
public.
beach.
You don't have to
Oh,
pay
yeah.
nothing. It's a
Nope.
sandy
Right out
little
there.
beach. You can it's dog friendly. I've taken
Yes.
my dogs to the beach there before, and
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
kind of a nice little place to just go hang out. But
And you can get some great shots. There's some,
yeah.
scraggly old branches and bushes there and you can kind of see into the woods from there.
Yeah.
So you can get some good footage from there. It's a good vantage point if that's all you want to do from there. But you can kind of imagine,
Yeah.
you can kind of just in your mind think of like one of those galleon ships like flying overhead. It's just, it really
Yeah,
is.
and
It's really
the
cool.
stories are just it's
They're
just
nuts.
crazy.
They're wild.
Like, you don't
They're wild.
even know what to make of them, but it's you can't really do much in the way of like investigation
Yeah.
or verifying, and I don't know how you verify a flying ship anyway. But
Yeah.
but
Most of the ones you see, like I think Virginia Paranormal Research, if you watch some of the videos, the YouTube stuff, everyone's just walking down the main road.
yeah,
And that's
that's
really
about all you can
that's
do.
all you can do. And
Yeah.
it is a one lane road. Like it is not.
Yeah.
If your car comes, you're gonna have an issue trying to get both of you to pass.
Yeah.
But it's one of those places that's very cool. I want to check it out again sometime for sure. But so I mean, there you go, haunted journey, right? We checked out 4 pretty cool places. I'll throw in one just not for conversation per se, but in case you're check out Occoquan, Virginia sometime. Incredibly haunted, they say. We did a video on that years ago. My former co-host Tara and I, we investigated there, so that's a cool spot to check out also if you want. But yeah, good places. Sadly, I've only been to one of these. I got to work on getting out to some more of these places, but very cool. So I guess my question, Denver, you kind of answered earlier, but if people want to know more about you, no social media, but where can they find out about you?
Just go on if you want to check out any of my books, go on Amazon. Just look up Denver Michaels on Amazon. I do have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
I haven't really put anything out in ages, but I do have some little snippet videos and stuff. So just look up author Denver Michaels on YouTube, and you could go to let's see, I've got one of those free blog sites. It's author Denver Michaels .blogspot.com.
There you go. You can read all the stuff. Yep. I'm going to read some more of these
everything's
books.
there.
Good. Folks, for our listeners, of course, if you guys, we've done haunted stuff before. This is a lot of fun to do these. If you have any ideas, we'd love to do more of them. Shoot us your ideas. I'll talk haunted places forever and ever. So let us know what you think. Denver, this is awesome. I know we talked about this for quite a while to do. So thank you again for being in the documentary, obviously. And our paths will cross, I'm sure, many more times. But thank you for doing this. So that's it for now. And remember, folks out there, if life hands you chicken, eat it.
The Scary Movie Project podcast. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.